everyone. Welcome back to the Rewired podcast. We're so excited to be back on after what has been quite a long break. We did want to start with a quick catch up with what we've been up to and what's the future of Rewired and coaching in general. But we are really excited to start with the topic, and there's actually a lot to cover. So, at a later point, we will do more of a catch up episode. But today, we're going to be doing a topic that quite a lot of people have actually requested, and that is the idea of quasi recovery. So quasi recovery is this idea of like you're not in that real depths of your eating disorder anymore, where you're really feeling as physically compromised or mentally compromised as you were, but you're also not completely free. And you can kind of get to this place of thinking that maybe this is as good as it gets. And what we want to address in this episode is really to talk about what this stage is and the fact that there is this further freedom and full recovery that is possible as well. Our intention of this episode is definitely not to make anybody feel bad for being this stage. We're quite aware that sometimes in the recovery space, there's this idea of either like you're really not well and you've got an eating disorder, or you're fully recovered. And there isn't much in between, and there isn't much of a pause to be able to look back and think, wow, I've made so much progress. And usually people have got to quasi recovery, they've made so much progress and it's taken a lot to get them to that point. So if you're there, well done for the progress you've made, and you should be so proud of yourself. But now we want to talk about what this space looks like, and hopefully make you feel less alone in it, and maybe give you some language and some awareness of what it looks like, and then show you ways to keep moving forward to full recovery, because we've both been there and it can feel quite isolating at times. So Meg, can you start by saying like what quasi recovery looked like for you and your recovery, and like when did you start to experience it and gain awareness of it?
Yeah, I would say I probably spent years there, to be honest. It feels like a bit of like quicksand to me. Like you can get really, really stuck because you're kind of like functioning enough in life. You're ticking the boxes. Like for me, I did have a job, I did have some friendships, I did have a relationship. Like on the surface, it could have looked like I was living life just fine. The boxes were getting ticked. But I had a ton of eating disorder rules in place still. Food was still like my main preoccupation in the day and my body. And even though I was doing these things, I wasn't really present with them. I was kind of like there on the surface. Like one way I think of it is it's almost like I was living like a stencil of life, but I hadn't colored it in. So it looked like life was there, but there was no, to me, my experience of it, there was no quality to it. I wasn't present for it. I wasn't like connected in my relationships. I wasn't enjoying things. I was still spending most of my time thinking about food, planning food, managing food, almost like it was quite a lot of effort to try and keep up both sides, like to try and keep up life, but manage my eating disorder around it so that I was still also ticking the boxes of my eating disorder. Like one thing I used to think is almost I felt like, I mean, a swan is too elegant an analogy, but like a duck or something gliding on the water. So on the surface, it just looked like I was fine, like all the other ducks. But then underneath, I was like frantically kicking my legs to make sure I'd like planned my food. Like if I was going out for a lunch, that I'd like researched the menu in advance. I'd like created buffers through compensation, or I'd corrected things through compensation after. Like everything was like thought through and planned and compensated and counted and timed. Like I still had all of the rules and rigidities of an eating disorder, but at the same time I was trying to fit that into living life, which was really like a double life. That's the other thing, sometimes I felt like I was living a double life, like I was a bit like a secret person, but on the surface I was like putting on this big smile, like look how fine I am, but it was so much effort to do it. And I would say I spent years like that.
Yeah. And so did you, when you were in that stage, did you have awareness of the fact that it was still an eating disorder, or did you think this is as good as it gets? Or were you like, were you just kind of like almost denying the fact that you still
Yeah.
needed to move forward?
That's a really good question, and maybe a bit of all of it. But no, I probably did still know, but I think I was so scared of like fully unsuppressing my body weight. What would happen if I ate unrestrictedly? Like really challenging those last fears. Even like filling that void of the eating disorder, like what existed beyond it kind of thing. I think I was so scared of it that I didn't want to let go of that last bit of like safety and control. I still felt like I needed it to feel okay in life. Like as long as I've done X, Y, Z, I feel okay. And I didn't know how I'd feel okay without it. So I think I thought I needed it. And I think I was scared to not have it. Like I kind of knew that it was there. I wasn't really living life to the extent I wanted to, but I was scared of doing it any other way.
Yeah, I think that's what makes people and us, we was why we were stuck there for so long, is that idea of being scared of like what is going to happen to my weight, what is going to fill that void of the eating disorder. And like you kind of get to a point where I think people are worrying about you less and you're also worrying about yourself less. And you almost like kid yourself of like, oh, but I am able to work now, I am able to join in, I am able to do this, I don't look as unwell as I did. And you then almost like invalidate yourself.
Mm.
So it's so hard, isn't it, to then like keep moving forward. The motivations that got you to quasi recovery from like being really unwell, like sometimes don't
That's so
still work. But it's like you said, right? But it's like you said, it's more of like a stencil of those things. So it's not
yeah.
like life isn't a series of tick boxes. It's about like truly being present and really enjoying them. Like it's one thing, like to become a mum, for instance, because we're both mums, so that's easy for us to relate to. But it's another thing to be able to be present and enjoy being a mum and like being in the moment with
Yeah.
them. So,
Yeah,
yeah, bringing color
totally.
to it, like you're saying.
Yeah, like anything you do in life to not have half your brain on food. Like I don't think about food now, I eat it and then I move on with my day and it doesn't occur to me again, really. But like before, if I was like in the cinema, I couldn't concentrate on the film because I'd still be thinking about food. Like it was just present in anything. A conversation with somebody, I'd have half my brain on like, well, what did I do for lunch? What time is snack? This conversation needs to wrap up because in 5 minutes I need to be somewhere to eat. Like it still
Mhm.
really, really governed my life. I just kind of hid it a bit more. Well, I suppose I hid it before anyway,
Absolutely.
but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's even more, isn't it, in a way? Because like you said, you're trying to live this double life. Whereas when you were really unwell, people knew that that's where your brain would probably be on. But now it's like you can't even be honest with the fact that that's where your brain is sometimes.
Mm.
And but even like you're going for a meal with somebody, you're like, okay, well, I'm able to go to the restaurants now. I'm able to go to the meals, but you're like still scanning the menu for like the lowest item, or like you're seeing ways to compensate that, or you're just doing it but you're really panicked around it and it really
Yeah.
stresses you out and you're not present when you're having that conversation with somebody.
Yeah. Like how you're talking about this, it makes me think I've heard a lot of people say like that, but I'm fine, like because I'm able to do this stuff now, like I can't still have a problem, or because I've been iller in the past, I can't have a problem. Like people almost don't feel like justified in their illness anymore. Or even I've heard
Mhm.
people say like I need to be iller to then be able to recover kind of thing. Like you need to undo a little bit to be able to move forwards. That to me, I've heard that so many times. I don't know if you've heard that from clients with
Oh
coaching.
my gosh, so much, so much. And feeling like there is a right way to get to that place.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think I got into that place actually. And that reminds me of like I got into that place like thinking that I just wanted to recover by only eating like quote unquote healthy foods.
Mm.
Because I think that that's like as I got into quasi recovery, it started almost like like going into orthorexia. And so I think that that's like another thing of people then realize that they're in orthorexia and they're like, oh, I wish I could go back and undo it and start again and
Yeah.
not have all the orthorexic behaviors. But it's like, don't worry, like this is where you're at right now, honor where you are, and there's no problem starting now with
Yeah.
challenging those behaviors. You don't
100%.
have to be pure rock bottom physically in order to start.
Yeah, 100%. And like, whilst you're thinking this, time is passing, like, life is still moving ahead and moving on. And every day you're with your eating disorder, you're like solidifying, not solidifying, so that's wrong, so it's still plastic, but you're like further, um,
Training it.
yeah, enforcing that neurowiring and any additional eating disorder behaviors, you're actually creating more like eating disorder neurowiring to have to undo, relearn, rewire, retrain. Like it gets harder. So that thought of like, oh, well, I'll just take a few steps back and then I'll be in the perfect position to take steps forward. Like there is no perfect, neat, linear recovery where everything comes together at the perfect time. And yeah, time passes whilst you're waiting for that or thinking maybe I'll undo it or blah, blah, blah. Like there is no perfect time. Like now, make the changes now.
That's so empowering, isn't it? That's like such a good thing to play back to yourself if you're struggling with like putting off taking action, because like you said, there is no greater moment than now. For me as well, Quasi recovery, like the movement part was also a really difficult place to be because people were worrying less about like the movement I was engaging in. I was also like, well, I'm in a healthier place and now I can engage in movement. I don't need to take this break from it. But the thing is, it's not about really where you're physically at, it's where
Mm,
you're mentally at.
mm,
And like, so if you're still mentally tied to movement in order to
mm.
eat or for your self-esteem, or if you missed it, then you don't feel good about yourself and you're stressing about it, like that's still an issue that needs healing.
Definitely.
So yeah,
And it's
yeah,
personal to you, isn't it? Like you could be like, oh, but so and so does the same thing as me and it's not a problem to them. Fine, let them crack on. Maybe it is a problem to them, by the way. You've got no idea what's going on for somebody, but maybe it's not. Either way, they're on their path and you're on yours. Like you have your
yeah,
own history, your own health legacy, your own genetics, your own goals in life, your own what fills your cup up, what makes you happy inside. Like everyone is so different and all you've ever got is you. And I think it takes a lot of like shining the light inside on like where am I at, not like but at this, like you have a belief of like, well, at this BMI I should be okay, or if I've got my period I should be okay, or if I'm able to do this I should be okay, if I'm holding down a job I should be okay. Like no, not at all that's important is like where are you, what's your quality of life, what are your relationships like, what's your relationship to food like, how do you spend your day, what's your routine like, what's your mental space like, how peaceful is it in your brain, like have you still got food noise, are you thinking about food, like all of those things are what's important. It's your life. Like all that matters is like how you live inside your brain and in your body. And
yeah.
if that's not in a good place, then that's all you need. Like that's reason enough to continue with recovery.
Absolutely. And I think right now there's a lot of health messaging out there, which makes this all really confusing. And that can be really difficult when you get into a quasi recovery place because you're feeling like, well, I'm not in that like real danger zone anymore. So maybe the health advice does apply to me. No, it doesn't. Like Meg said, it's like you've got a health legacy of an eating disorder. It's almost like it maybe never applies to you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm never going to be somebody who like micromanages how much I'm eating in the day, like somebody else who might find it fine too, because like I always have that health legacy. I'm not going to miss a meal because my recovery is so important to me. Whereas with somebody else, they can miss a meal and it's like no big deal to them. Like they can just move on with their day or they will bring it back in the next day. They can be more intuitive with things. But I think that's the thing. It's like you need to protect like the fact that you've got this health legacy of having an eating disorder and like we've spoken about before, like having that glass dome on yourself and just like
Definitely.
focusing back on you. I love what you said about that, like just focusing back on you and questioning.
Yeah.
Like we look outside for advice so much, like, well, they say this, they say that, they recommend this, they recommend that. And by the way, there's always conflicting advice. You'll never find like one consensus. And that's because we're all so different.
Yeah.
But you are your own best study. You know what's worked and not worked for you in the past.
Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah. It's almost like honor the invisibles, like the bits that nobody can see, the piece inside your brain, or not piece, this piece, whatever the word is for that. Like that's your truth and that's what's important for you. Like it, other people don't need to be able to see it. They don't need to have like set it as an official target or blah, blah, blah. It's on a BMI chart, anything like this. Like it can be invisible, but if it's your quality of life and your experience, like that's what's important to you.
Absolutely. So what helped you to like realize that you were in this stage, like fully, like you said, you like half kind of realized you were there, like half accepted it. What made you realize that you were in this stage and that when did you make that decision to move forward?
I think like when I saw the therapist who we both saw, but not that we saw her together, but when I went to see Corrine, um,
Mm.
she was incredible, honestly. Like the first bit of work we did together was, to me, it felt like shining a light on the reality of my life. And I felt like I was kind of just ticking along day to day, like ticking my boxes. And then like years were passing, and what had I been doing? Just ticking my boxes every day. But I felt like the beginning of our work together, she shone a light on that for me and showed me like, this is the reality of your life. This is the trajectory you're on. This is where you're going to be a year from now. Like, are you happy with it? Is that the life you want to live? And gave me the space to like think about other things I might like to do with my time or how I might like my brain to operate or like spontaneity with food and with friendships and stuff like that. And I think that kind of showed me like, actually, this isn't how I want to be living my life. Like, I feel like it's how I have to, and I'm scared to not to. But if I stop and think about it and look at a bit of a bigger picture and a bit of like, yeah, time moving forward, it's not really the path I wanted to be on. So I think that was so helpful. And then she paired that with, and it takes action to get there, like nothing changes if nothing changes kind of thing. And then she taught me how to make those changes, how to repeat the changes, how to not compensate to quick fix out of the changes, how to tolerate the discomfort, how to keep making changes and changes and changes in line with where I'd like to get to. Not like I didn't have a perfectly clear vision of what I wanted life to look like, but I kind of could get perspective on like, I do actually want it to be different to this. I don't want this Groundhog Day to be the rest of my life, like my eternity kind of thing. So I think for me, it was like seeing her, the combination of like that shining a light on the reality of my life, like completing the picture of how I was living life and how it was panning out, and then paired with, and this is how to make changes and sustain them to move in a different direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thank God we both had her because she was amazing, wasn't
God
she?
for us, yeah, honestly.
I know, I
Oh God,
know.
an angel.
I think that she's such an angel. Like I think that she spoke to that part of us that knew this wasn't it. Like that there is like that inner knowing that you almost
Yeah.
put down. Like there was a part of you that knows surely this can't be the end.
Yeah.
Like surely this isn't what other people experience every day. Like surely there's more to this. And then but other people around you might be saying, well, that's so great. You look so good now, or
Mm,
like even
mm,
complimenting you because you kind
yeah.
of fit like what other people think
So,
like diet culture would want you to look like. So actually, so I actually got more compliments. I don't know about you,
I
but
did
like,
too.
or people, yeah. And so I think she spoke to that part of you that knew that there was more.
Yeah.
And then she's kind of giving you a glimpse into like what true freedom actually is.
Yeah.
And I agree with you because I actually started therapy when I was in quasi recovery. I was able to get to quasi recovery, I'd say, like before I started therapy because I felt like, oh, well, like when I had actually made the decision to recover, I felt like, well, yeah, it's valid. Like I do need to recover. But then when you get to the quasi recovery place, it's almost so accepted that you're like, do I move forward? How do I move forward?
It's so true.
Is
Like,
that right?
yeah, 100%.
Mm,
Almost to me, I hit a point where I almost got like renewed fears as well, because it was like when I felt ill enough, I'm doing that in quotey thingies, to justify my
mm,
recovery, it felt like justified to have to challenge foods or to have to regain weight. Like it felt like I was deserving of it. It felt like, yep, this is what has to happen. And then I kind of hit a point where I felt like I lost my justification. Like, but I've had like this sense of like, oh, but by now I should be recovered. Why am I not? And now, therefore, I can't continue with regaining weight or gaining weight, whatever, challenging foods, because I've already hit this point where I think I should be recovered. So then I kind of like forced myself into this state of like, now you have to act recovered, even though I wasn't recovered because I believed I should be recovered or other messaging told me I should be, that kind of thing. But how
exactly.
how did you find it then? Like going to see Karine at that point, like how did she help you to push through that kind of stuck place?
I think she firstly helped to like make me realize that I was still stuck. I
Okay.
think that was firstly her and Hala, who was the dietitian I saw her at the start before I'd seen Karine, and she referred me on to Karine. They were like, you are still living with an eating disorder just because you don't necessarily physically look like you have one anymore. Like you mentally, your behaviors, your everything. And that is such an important lesson to realize. Like you don't need to look like you have an eating disorder to recover. Like there is no look of an eating disorder. Like it's all about your experience
Yeah.
and mentally what you're going through. So I think that that was so validating for them to be like, no, you are still struggling. And I think when they validated it, I was like, I am. I felt so seen.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because like yeah, and I was like, I knew this was not the end. And then I think that it was just then to move forward, it was about challenging all of those bits. So if you have 10% left of your eating disorder, or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50% left of your eating disorder that you need to kind of like work through, it's worth working through. Because I also think that like if you leave your eat a door, a bit of your eating disorder door open, like you really are waiting for something really bad in your life to come and fling it straight back open again. And that was the thing for me. Like I really wanted to close it so that like that was it. And I think I had to learn new coping strategies because I think it was still my way of coping with life when things got stressful or feeling safe. And I think it was also like letting go of that identity. I think this is what keeps people stuck sometimes. This like thing of like, well, I'm the one who's the fitness girl, or I'm the one that's the healthy one, or I'm the one who is in that slim body. I don't know who I am without it. So, like, I think part of the recovery journey is also like figuring out who you are outside of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Kareen really helped me to do. And then, like, on a practical level, like, where noticing where my restrictions are, like not being in denial of the fact that I was still had fear foods, I still had compensations, and being really systematic and like literally challenging them week after week.
Hmm. Wow, there's so much in that. So like she's shone a lot
I
of
know, sorry.
no, she's shone lights on a lot of things for you as well. The
Yeah.
identity
Mm.
one, like I've heard that a lot before as well. So
Mm.
like the fear of like losing me or lose, especially as time moves on, like the more and more time that's kind of dedicated to it or taken by it, it does feel even more and more part of you or like yeah, my identity. And then other people are moving on with their lives in different directions. It kind of feels harder and harder to let go of like this thing I've now feel like I've become fused with. So how did she help
Mm.
you with that? Like, how did you split that from your personality kind of thing and find other areas of yourself?
Yeah, I think this idea of like who am I is such a like concept that so many people struggle with, and I think that it's a normal struggle, even if you don't have an eating disorder, to not really know who you are and to try and figure that out. So I feel like that is like a passage that we all go through anyway. But I think it was a lot more like on values work of me realizing like, well, what do I who do I want to be? What do I want to show up as? And I realized like whenever I was acting eating disorder aligned, I was not acting in a way that I'd be proud of. And like I knew the things that I wanted to achieve in my life, whether that was being a mom or career wise or yeah, whatever, family wise, anything that I wanted to do, my eating disorder did not go with any of those things. Like it was not like I didn't want to be Sophia and her eating disorder as a mom or Sophia and her eating disorder as whatever career I was. I wanted to be me outside of that. And I felt like I could show up as a better version of myself in all of those scenarios without my eating disorder. So I realized like I still didn't really know who I was, but I think I knew one thing was that I didn't want that part of me.
Yeah.
I didn't want the eating disorder to be a part of me. I didn't want to look back on my life and say, well, you know what, I really aced having an eating disorder. Like that was one thing that I was like, I know that it's not something I'm going to be proud of at the
Mm.
end. And then so I think it was a lot about like zooming out, thinking about like what was important to me in life and like, is it worth it?
Yeah, yeah, having that bigger lens, the ability to zoom out and like
Mhm.
take stock a little bit, and then like align your decisions to where you want to be, not to what feels more comfortable in the moment, kind of
The
thing.
moment. Yeah. And just trust that like, to
Definitely.
just let go of the reins of it a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of it's a bit of a leap of faith, isn't it? Because you don't actually know necessarily what's next. Some people do. Some people have very, very clear recovery goals, but oftentimes you don't. Like I didn't feel like I did massively. And sometimes it's kind of like just like releasing one thing to make space for something new, but you don't actually know what that new is going to be yet, what it's going to look like or feel like. And there's that discomfort of like, it's not a quick like one-to-one swap. It's not like one out, one in. It's kind of like move bits out to make space and feel a bit lost for a period and a bit, it's all messy and you don't quite know what you're doing or where you're going. And then you gradually like trial and error, practice new things and move things in and explore and discover. But it's a really like uncomfortable grey in betweeny bit, I found anyway, like the moving the
I
eating
completely
before
agree.
life moved in.
I completely agree. And I think generally a lot of us like are scared of change. Like that's one thing that we get really scared of. So the idea of changing to something like we don't even know what it's going to look like, it can be so scary. But also I knew that I didn't want my life to be like the Groundhog Day, like you were saying
Yeah,
either. Like I want it to be the same every day. And so like if I did, I prefer a life where it was full of like adventure and change and difference and highs and lows than the same thing every day.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that made me make that decision
Yeah.
too.
But you definitely need a bigger lens to see that, don't you? Because the same day every
Yeah.
day is because in that day you want to do it. Like ultimately I wanted a different life, but in that day I never wanted a different life. Like every day I felt so compelled to keep ticking my eating disorder boxes. But I think the thing Karine really helped with is that like bigger lens of like, but do I still want to be doing that in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years? And then I was like, oh no, definitely not. And then she kind of was like, well, when's it going to change then? Something has to change to get there. Even though day to day you want to keep ticking the boxes, do you want to be doing it year to year? And then I was like, oh no, 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 no.
No, yeah, exactly. Like if you were to look back on your year, are you happy with what you would have achieved in that year? And
Yeah.
you were noticing that year on year, it was all kind of becoming the same. And what about people around you? Did they notice that you were still stuck in your eating disorder when you were at that stage? Or were they thinking that like, no, things have moved on so much?
Yeah, probably people who knew me well would have done because it
Mm.
impacts things. Like if we were on a holiday and I'm with people who know me well, it impacts like, but I still had to go restaurant to restaurant to look across the menu to find something I felt comfortable eating. I still had to know the times of the day and who's having what and when are you having, not even just my food, what are you doing with your food? Because that impacts my food somehow. So people like that probably notice, but then people I was less close to, I could probably hide it quite well. And they even some people would comment on like how much I ate and blah blah blah. Oh my goodness, you eat this, you eat that, and I'm like, oh my God, if only you knew what's going on in my brain around food and my relationships and da da da. Or yeah, commenting on my body, that kind of thing. I was thinking when we were talking then, like one of the things I think Kareem was amazing at as well was moving the spotlight away from like body and weight and numbers and onto life. Like I think I was so stuck in the like, but I have to eat this, I'm not allowed to eat this, and I have to do this in my day. My times have to be this, it has to be separated by this. And she was like, but what about your life? Like, are you able to join in? Are you able to have fun? Are you able to think freely? So that's something I talk about with clients a lot. It's like shifting that spotlight, like when it's really, really
Mm.
stuck in the like the fear of like, but my weight, but my body, but my this, but my that. And I'm like, yeah, and what life are you sacrificing for controlling those things?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Like because you can get so caught up in that. That is your goals. That is what you've got to achieve each day. And then when you zoom out, like, but actually, that isn't what I truly care about. That isn't like that is what is on my pedestal, and that is what I'm trying to tick off and meet each day. But actually, like if I zoom out, that isn't what is actually really important to me, and isn't what I would actually truly say as success.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want that from any, like I wouldn't want it for my kids. I wouldn't want like aspire to somebody necessarily
Yeah.
who did those things. So like what do you see in the world that you think actually I would love to be that type of a person?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And like, yeah, I felt like that. I sat in envy a lot. Like I'd watch other people being able to do these things freely, even like my brother and sister or people I went to school with, something like that. Like people who I was watching move on with life. And even just like, walk through the kitchen and the cookies have been baked and they just pick one up and eat one. Like I had so much envy for stuff like that. And then seeing Kareen and realizing like, if that's the life you want to live, live it. Like you can
Mm.
actually do these things, even though I had so much fear around them, but realizing like I don't actually need to be dictated to every day by my fear. Like I can do these things. And also in doing them, I then wasn't scared of them. Like I did overcome it. It did all neutralize, but I was so like crippled in the space of fear that I wasn't doing them. But actually, I feel like what she taught me is that my brain body needed exposure to them to learn that this
Mhm.
stuff's actually fine. Like you can actually live like this too. You don't have to sit enviously watching other people live like it.
Yeah, I think that's the key, what you just said as well. Like you kind of do need to take action at this point. This is the part of your recovery where you need to take action, challenge it, still work with a therapist to talk about the things that are underneath and any fears that can come up. Because I think when you are challenging things, sometimes a lot bubbles up. So it's really important that you are working with a therapist at this point if you can. But the key is to take action. It doesn't kind of just go away, this part, by talking about the like I don't think I could have talked about my past or what led to my eating disorder, and this would just have solved. I think I did actually have to take action to challenge it.
That is so true. That like if nothing changes, nothing changes kind of thing. Like if you
Yeah,
keep doing the same behaviors, you're keep gonna keep doing the same behaviors. Like those
yeah,
behaviors
because it's like
become your life.
autopilot. Yeah, it's like autopilot. And so you just kind of like need to break that up.
Yeah.
Um, and I also had to kind of stop trying to look for like external validation of like that I do have an eating disorder or I do deserve to eat or I do deserve to rest and like giving that validation to myself, which was so hard. It's so difficult to do that, isn't it? Like, instead of like when I was recovering at the earlier stage before Quasi, I could say like, oh, is this amount okay? Or like, do you think it's okay? Or do you think I'm having too much? Or do you think it's okay if I rest? And everybody would be like, yes, rest. Yes, eat. And then you get to this stage and you'll be like, is it okay if I rest? And people are like, yeah, if you want to, like rather than yes, sit
Yeah.
down kind of thing. And it's like instead being like, right, okay, I'm not gonna look to other people for that anymore. Like I know what I need. Or if you're working with somebody, I think like a therapist or a coach or a dietitian who specializes in eating disorders, I think it helps because they understand that need for validation. But I think sometimes it's really difficult for like family members and friends to understand that as well. But like you just really require that validation during that time. So either like turning inwards or using the support around you.
True.
Can help.
Yeah, and I guess also like your needs and preferences. not even just, I was gonna say might be different to other people, will be different to other people. Like everyone's needs and preferences are different to other people. But especially after like months, maybe even years of restriction, not having these foods, suppressing your body weight, like you are going to have different needs and it might look and feel a bit more extreme than what other people around you are doing. There was a period where like I would go through obsessions with foods and I would just want this new food that I hadn't had allowed myself for years and now I'm allowed it. You know, I'd started allowing myself to have it, then I would become obsessed with it. People around me weren't doing that. They weren't wanting like three, four things in a row, have it as a snack, have it again at dinner time, have it again with my dessert, have it again as another snack. Like people around me weren't doing that. It felt abnormal, really. But then if I
Yeah,
look at it within the context of me, it's not abnormal. Like it makes perfect sense. Of course, my body wants it after years of restriction.
absolutely. I was exactly the same. And it could be really scary because I would literally go with my husband and we'd eat something and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm so full," or "I can't finish it." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I could finish mine and yours and order
Yeah.
another one." And it's really scary. You're like, why is this happening? And is this going to be forever? But like you say, it doesn't go on forever as long as you give your body what it needs, because that mental restriction is huge. It's the physical and the mental. And so, yeah, seeing that your body hasn't had it for so long, like give your body permission and it will be able to move through it. And I went through that at different stages. It wasn't just like one item of food. I
Yeah,
went through my
honestly.
different of
Yeah.
foods. So
And also, Steph, like I can hear almost what people are thinking in response to this. Like you didn't feel
yeah.
you had a weight buffer. Like you weren't like, oh, but I'm allowed to have this obsession. I'm allowed to challenge these foods because my weight's whatever that it allows it, you know?
No, I was actually like in the later part of my recovery when I started that part. When I first started weight restoring, I struggled to do that bit. Like I said, I was trying to like gain weight, but like in a quote unquote healthy way, whatever that is. I won't even tell you. It's pretty gross when I think about it, like what I would make myself eat to try and like gain weight, but like rather than just enjoy the process. Yeah, so I didn't actually get to that point of like allowing myself all the different foods until I was like in a quote unquote healthier
Mhm.
body, because I realized like this was still not a life what I wanted. Like it wasn't, I didn't want a life where I still had to micromanage everything. I had to check backs and packets and da 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 and work things into my diet. So no, like you want to have these things without like worrying about that buffer. That
Mm,
is normal eating.
yeah. And also that like
Mm.
once it's in, it's in. Like these foods are forever foods. They're not recovery foods. They're not just allowed because you've got a certain buffer or because you're at this stage or that stage or whatever. Like they're just allowed because they're allowed. Like you don't have to cut them again. You have this stuff. It's just a new way of life. It's a forever thing. It's not allowed under certain conditions because that's almost still an eating disorder. Like, well, it is still an eating disorder. If it's allowed because I need to gain weight this week or because blah, 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 like, no, it's allowed because it's allowed. You can have it because your body wants it.
Meg, I'm also curious, like, because I never had weight targets. That was never part of my recovery. So was weight targets a part during your Quasi recovery, or was it a part of like, because for me, a big part was being like surrendering, like, and that was so hard for me. But I
Yeah.
did have to do that part of like, I don't know where my weight's going to end up, and I just need to like let go of that. I think I was so sick of having an eating disorder that I was just like, let me just see where I end up.
Yeah.
Like, but I know some people have weight targets. So how did that fit into it with you?
I probably had both, to be honest, because I also hit a stage where I realized like no target can define what my body wants to do. I think like I'd hit a target and be like, still thinking about food loads. If I wanted to maintain this weight, I'd have to restrict. I'd have to be that duck, swan, probably a duck with feet kicking below the surface, realizing like this is not where my body wants to be. It's not, it's externally defined. It's not my body's definition of healthy and happy. I think when I realized that, then I did the same. I kind of just went, okay, body, over to you. And that to me is the turning point. That's probably my turning point of getting out of quasi recovery and getting into full recovery. Like, I think as you recover, like you're in a prison effectively of your eating disorder and it can grow, it can get bigger and the boundary can get bigger and you can move around a bit more and you've got a bit more freedom and you're able to do things you weren't able to do before. But there's still conditions attached to it. There's still compensations, maybe, or planning or counting or whatever, so you're still in a prison. Like a prison's a prison, it can have a bigger surface area but you're still in a prison. And I think I got to a point where I just went, do you know what, enough. Like I will honor my obsessions, I will not set targets anymore, I will do, like, I will listen to my body, I will do what I need to do. And at that point I think then it was like, then because it was genuinely then unconditional eating, full permission, there was no limits, no rules, no boundaries, no restrictions. And then I felt like it, I then got to the point where my brain, I don't know what it is, like trusted food, knew that it was coming, knew that it was loud, knew what it tasted like. And then almost it became boring, to be honest, which in itself is a bit sad. I was like, food was a bit of a high for me before. Like it was really exciting. I'd really longed for it. It was the highlight of my day. And then once it was just fully allowed, I was like, oh, this is just food, is it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you kind of need to get to that point because then it allows for other parts of your day to be more meaningful and more
Yeah.
joyful.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with you. Mm.
Yeah, like that filling the void thing as well. That was a big fear for me in probably what was keeping me in quasi recovery a bit is like that I don't know what else is next. Like I don't know what I'm interested in. I wouldn't say I had a big identity piece to the eating disorder. Like if anything, I was the opposite. I tried to pretend I didn't have one, like I didn't want it to be tied to me at all, but I knew it was, and it meant my life was completely consumed by it. And I didn't know like what else would I do with my time? What else was I interested in? It just felt like there was nothing, I just didn't know like anything
Mm.
else. So I think like that was a big fear of mine. And it was hard because what I felt like I learned is that the eating disorder has to move out to make space for life to move in. And whereas I
Mm.
kind of wanted this like ready-made life that I would just step into, or like I wanted a vision of what life would look like. So I knew certainly like, yep, that is worth it. I will sacrifice my eating disorder to move into that because that is categorically better. And I didn't have that. Like it was a lot of blind faith and trust and a lot of like, this is shit. I don't want this. There are things I'm
Mm.
envious of. There are things I'd love to be able to do. There are things that feel like they might be more meaningful to me. And I kind of like had to take that leap of faith to then go and explore what those things are. And a lot of trial and error, like I tried new hobbies that I then didn't like and never pursued, found things I did like. Then it's also changed with time and age and life situation. Like,
And just as you're talking about it, I just think identity is such an interesting one, isn't it? Because like even when you step into the your new life, like even if you take up a hobby, it doesn't necessarily define you as a person because you could stop that hobby and you're still you. And I think that's something you learn as well. Like you're not the things you do, you're not the job you do, you're not the roles necessarily you play in the world. You really are just your values, aren't you?
so
You're just
true.
right.
Yes. And I remember Corinne saying as well, it's reminding me of something else. She used to talk to me about balance. Like, I think I was almost looking for like, what's the thing that's going to replace my eating disorder? Like, I must have a job that I really like, or a person I'm really love, or
Mm.
a hobby that really now defines me. And she was like, no, it's actually like balance. Like, you have like, she spoke about the pie chart of life. Like, if you break your life into a pie chart, that it's got different areas of meaning and you're not all in on one thing. Like, if something goes
Love
wrong in
that.
one area, you have other areas that make you, or that like create your identity, self-worth, day, routine thinking. I don't know how she describes it exactly, but
Abs-
yeah, balance in life.
Absolutely, yeah, because you could go into that really difficult space of letting go of this, but then creating a new obsession. Like even the things that are most important to you in life, like for us right now being mums, that if that was our everything and there was nothing going on, that would also be, in my opinion, quite unhealthy too. Like you need other stuff going on in life to create that balance. So yeah, maybe part of that bit is like taking away that need to go all in on one thing or be perfect at one thing or an
Mm,
obsession with one thing and like stripping it back actually and
mm,
having, like you say, more balance and being more in line with your values as much as you can.
mm,
Nobody can be in line with their values all the time, even
mm,
without an eating disorder, but you definitely have a way better chance when you're not got this like
mm.
pull to do certain behaviors.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, not needing like I think I used the eating disorder a lot to just feel okay. Like it was a very
Mm.
fragile sense of okay, a very controlled state of okay. But like if I've done this, I feel okay. If I've done this, I feel okay. Like it was very moment to moment. Like and every day was a blank slate. Now you've got to go back and tick your boxes again to feel okay. So I think I don't know, for me, maybe there was like a learning that it's okay to not feel okay, or I don't need that like micro moments of okay. I can be more okay on a bigger scale. And
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
my okay was stuff
yeah.
like if I knew where my lunch was placed in the fridge at work, I was okay. And if someone took my spot, God forbid, then I don't know how I'd have coped with my day. But I guess like in doing that, I was sacrificing so much of life to have that like small, artificial, fragile sense of okay.
Honestly, you just reminded me once when I got to work, I actually forgot my lunch at home. Shock horror. Like my poor husband had to literally like drive to work, like the biggest detour ever. Whereas like it's so funny, isn't it? Because like now you'd be like, oh, I forgot it. I'll just go grab something.
Yeah,
Like there's so
flexible.
flexibility,
Yeah.
whereas that would have been like the end of the world. And so, yeah, I think it's like you said, like you've just got all of these boxes that you feel that you need to tick to be okay, but also I think for me there was like this element of being scared that something bad was going to be something bad would happen. And then if something bad happened, I could be like, well, at least I did this. At least this, because, like, I don't know if you ever had this, but like when you're recovering and you challenge something, but then something bad happens at the
Yeah.
same time, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't, I didn't need to have done this. Like, this is just so overwhelming and stressful. I wish I could have at
Yeah.
least stuck to my safe food or whatever. And it's kind of like letting go of that need for safety and having other coping
Yeah.
strategies to deal with that instead.
100%. And like food's completely unrelated. Like I know exactly what you
Yeah,
mean. I would get a speeding ticket and then I'd be like, oh my God, and I ate this.
yeah,
What?
exactly. That's so true.
Completely unrelated.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think that is such a key one, and maybe that's something we could talk about in another episode as well. It's like what those coping strategies were and how we move those into our life. But yeah, I mean, I think that just remembering, like, quasi recovery, this part is definitely not a failure. And I think that actually almost everybody I know usually goes through this stage at some point on their way to full recovery. And I think it's something that solidifies like your motivation to keep going.
Mm.
And I think if you're here and you just need like, you just taking a breather or a moment, that's okay. But just know that like it's not the end and you're not alone. And the rest of us have gone through this journey too. And it's tough, but it is so worth keeping going.
It's true because I guess in doing it, you realize, oh, is this how I want to be living life? I'm not like I haven't managed to find this way of having my cake and eat it, so to speak. Like
Mm,
I think even like I kind of wanted my body at some point to just adapt to a state of weight suppression. Like at some point, my body will just be happy at this weight and I'll be able to eat what I want and maintain this weight. So I don't know if
yeah.
it's like some part of it is just realizing like life is never going to be what I want it to be. For me,
Mm,
life never would have been what I wanted it to be whilst I was in a weight suppressed body or whilst I was restricting my food. Like they were just incompatible. They were mutually exclusive. Living a full free life and having any
mm,
form of prison, eating disorder ruling around me, the two were not
mm.
conducive with each other. And I necessarily had to sacrifice life to be able to maintain those eating disorder rules. So I don't know if it's just at some point time or something that I just got sick enough of it. Probably time and having the spotlight from Kareen, to be honest, to shine that
Yeah,
spotlight, be like, take that minute to think, actually, is this how I want to be spending
the
life?
rest. Yeah, absolutely. There's a certain optimism that comes when you really let go of those things, and you truly not like waking up and thinking that you've got all these tick boxes to fill and you can
Yeah.
be more present. So,
Well, yeah, that's a
yeah.
good point as well, because what's life going to look like and the big goals and stuff like that. Like a lot of my motivation for getting out of quasi recovery was just, I don't want to wake up and have food the first thought in my head. I don't want it to be the last thought in my head at night. I don't want to lie in bed planning the next day. I don't want to be invited out by a friend and have to recap what I've had or what I'm going to have the next, how I'm going to manage it, work it in, blah, blah, blah. Like it's all invisible. Nobody knew about those things. They're weird, if anything. Like other people would have been like, what? you know
Yeah,
why can't I just go to a
absolutely.
cafe? Like I kind of wanted
Yeah.
to, like, a lot of it was my quality of life, like the invisible stuff that nobody even knew I was experiencing in my brain. Maybe they thought I was fine, but great, you don't have to live in my brain and body. Like you can think I'm fine and you can go away and live your life. But if I'm ruled by food and numbers and times and whatever rules and rituals in the day, like that's not my
Mhm.
version of fine, and nobody else needs to know that. But I did, and I was living that quality of life. And I wasn't the person I wanted to be for other people. I wasn't like the wife I wanted to be. I wasn't a mum at the time, but a friend I wanted to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just weren't showing up in the way that you knew that you could truly be. Like, and to be honest, like I know what you're like. You would have still been amazing at all of those, but like you knew that you were still not the person you truly wanted to be, and maybe
Mm.
you weren't getting to enjoy it as much.
That's where it's like the swan or the duck thing. Like on the surface, I did tick boxes. Like I got promoted at work and stuff.
Yeah.
The effort that went into maintaining this facade or this smile on my face or this life that looked okay on the surface, like, yeah, I was really sacrificing effort and planning and my own peace and my own like enjoyment of things because
Yeah.
it requires a
Yeah.
lot of effort to live that kind of double life.
And that's, I think, such a good point, because it could be that when you move to full recovery, you're not like attaining in the same way in other areas of your life as what you were then. But I think actually, like, it's because you're enjoying life so much.
Very true.
Like, it's that whole thing, of like, to get the top grades or whatever, like you have to sacrifice so much of your life to kind of get there, or to get the promotion, or to get the whatever. But actually,
True.
there's so much joy in just like not being perfect and
That's
not
so
getting top
true.
grades.
Yeah. And knowing your own, like, this is better for me, like, actually, my quality of life is better here. You don't need to see it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't
Mm.
have to be an A star on paper. I think they're nines or something these days, aren't they? It doesn't have to be
I
a
know what all changed. What's going on? I feel so old.
you're old.
Tell me, what is this? Mm.
Even though that makes me think, like, recently, we'll share it when we do like a recap of where we are and what we're up to. But I like left my job recently, and now I'm like spending more time at home. I've started like the coaching part-time, eating disorder recovery coaching part-time. And it was a really, really difficult decision because I felt like, no, I need to have my job. Other people are managing both. Other people are full-time working mums. Why can't I do it? We need to earn this to be able to buy this house, to pay the mortgage, to have this lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? And then I've made
Mm.
this decision to leave, which feels great. Like internally, I feel so values aligned now. Like I feel like I'm one person, I'm in the right place. Like I'm so lucky to be able to do this and feel like we've made a lot of sacrifices. Don't get me wrong, like we have had to scale back and sacrifice a lot. But I met a friend at the weekend. She was talking to me about like the house they wanted to buy and her salary and blah blah. And I had this real like, oh my God, again, like I failed. Why am I not able to do it all? Why can she manage it and I can't manage it? And it was a real like unsettling, like, and I've had to really try and like redefine. This is what I say to myself in my head: redefine what success looks like to me, like what's actually important to me at the moment. Where do I want to be? Where do I need to be? Where do I feel like I'm in the right place? And then try and align as best I can. Like within this, I still can't completely live that. I'm not like a sat on a desert island. Do you know what I mean? With a cocktail in my hand, enjoy
It's
myself like that. But within
it's
our
all a
own,
process. It's all
within
a
our own.
process. It doesn't really stop, does it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but like equally, I'm not lying on the floor crying because I feel so burnt out or so
No,
split in two, or you know,
no,
like sacrificing my soul to try and do this thing I think I need to do to keep up or to do what other
absolutely.
people are doing, whatever. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
made me think of that.
You've made
That's not
so
meant
the
to
right
share.
choice. Yeah, you've made so the right choice. And I think that links so well to what we're talking about, because it is about sometimes not doing what seems on the outside to other people
Yeah,
as success. It's about turning inwards and like, what does success look for me? What does
yeah,
peace look like for me? What do I
yeah,
want my life to be like? And not get that validation from outside. So,
totally.
and I think
Like,
that is
yeah.
what quasi recovery is, that stage.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. Same thing with recovery. I think if you can keep shining that spotlight on like inside you, on life, not on body, on like your
Mm.
values, on what's meaningful to you, on the quality of your life. Other people don't need to be able to see it. It doesn't need to
Mm.
be ticking all the boxes you think you need to be able to tick. It doesn't need to look like the version somebody else is doing. Maybe it looks like you think they're doing it better than you're able to do it. Like all that matters is you, your life, the people around you that you love, like your quality of life.
You can't measure that. You just literally can't measure that. And it's accepting that. Like, you can't measure that with numbers, but you measure that with how you feel. And it's definitely worth keeping forward. So if you're in this stage and you're feeling a bit isolated or alone, hopefully this helped you to feel a bit more seen, and maybe even made you feel that you're like awareness to the fact that you're in this stage. So please do get support or help if you're in this place. And there is quite a lot of stuff out there on quasi recovery. So please do listen to other podcasts and YouTubes about it.
That's made me think actually, there's a brilliant blog by Emily. I don't never know how to say her surname, like Troscianko. So she wrote a blog called Recovering from Anorexia, How and Why Not to Stop Halfway. And it's amazing. I probably should have read it in prep for this, but I just remember reading it over and over again.
Amazing. Okay, definitely. Let's link
Making it
that.
show
I'll
notes.
have a read
Yeah.
of that as well. Yeah, it's helped so much to hear other people's journeys, doesn't it? And make you
Yeah,
not feel like you're the only one going
true.
through it.
Yeah. Like it's possible and you can keep going.
Okay, so good seeing you. And thank you, everybody who was listening. Hope it was helpful to you, or if you're supporting somebody. And we will see you next time. If you have any ideas of particular podcast titles, then please do let us know. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.
Bye bye.